Hello, ladies and gentlemen, you're watching NDTV. In the midst of rising diplomatic tensions and military options on the table, India is sending out a clear message to Pakistan after the brutal terror attack in Pahalgam, which claimed 26 innocent lives. Now, with a swift diplomatic offensive, India has expelled Pakistani nationals, suspended the Indus Water Treaty, and also ramped up security measures. Chief of Defence Staff General Anil Chauhan met Defence Minister Rajnath Singh today, and it was in the evening to review the nation's preparedness, once again signalling India's firm resolve to break the cycle of violence in Kashmir. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in a powerful radio address, called for unity and retribution against those who seek to derail the country. As protests erupt in Srinagar, also in Pahalgam against the attack, Kashmir stands united against terror today. Meanwhile, Pakistan continues to fire across the LAC and also reaches out to China. While the NIA now is formally leading the investigation into this terror attack, India looks all set to hold the perpetrators of Pahalgam accountable. But the question remains, how far will this diplomatic and military standoff go? That is what we will try and decode tonight. Joining me now is Kamal Sibil, former Foreign Secretary of India. Thank you, Mr. Sibil, for joining us. Before I ask you questions, let's also first listen into what the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, said today.
इस आतंकी हमले के बाद पूरा देश एक स्वर में बोल रहा है। साथियों, भारत के हम लोगों में जो आक्रोश है, वो आक्रोश पूरी दुनिया में है। इस आतंकी हमले के बाद लगातार दुनिया भर से संवेदनाएं आ रही हैं। मुझे भी ग्लोबल लीडर्स ने फोन किए हैं, पत्र लिखे हैं, संदेश भेजे हैं। इस जघन्य तरीके से किए गए आतंकी हमले की सबने कठोर निंदा की है। उन्होंने मृतकों के परिवारजनों के प्रति संवेदनाएं प्रकट की है। पूरा विश्व आतंकवाद के खिलाफ हमारी लड़ाई में 140 करोड़ भारतीयों के साथ खड़ा है। मैं पीड़ित परिवारों को फिर भरोसा देता हूं, उन्हें न्याय मिलेगा, न्याय मिलकर रहेगा। इस हमले के दोषियों और साजिश रचने वालों को कठोरतम जवाब दिया जाएगा।
Former Foreign Secretary of India, Kamal Sibil, joins us. Thank you, Mr. Sibil, for your time. My first question to you, sir, what kind of strategies should India be using now to counter Pakistan's use of proxy wars, particularly in Jammu and Kashmir? India, as we know, has already responded with a series of punitive measures. It has also downgraded diplomatic ties. But people are constantly talking about what India did after Uri and Pulwama. But national security is very sensitive. A series of meetings are on. Clearly, there's an attempt to put out a calibrated response. How do you view this response by the Indian government?
Well, I think India is giving a very calibrated response. Something needed to be done immediately. Obviously, immediate kinetic action was not possible because it has to be weighed carefully. Pakistan has a strong military. It has strong weaponry, advanced weaponry. And it is bound to react to anything that we do, which means that there will be damage and casualties on our side. Therefore, we have to prepare for a military action with great care and make it in such a manner that there's maximum damage on the Pakistani side and least possible damage on our side. And public opinion has to be prepared because public opinion can shift if there are casualties on our side. And there are people in India, who are not fully supportive of the government, and even now are questioning the narrative that terrorism has no religion. They're trying to obfuscate the fact that it was a very calculated attack by the jihadists, and it was directed against Hindus. There's no doubt about it. So it was to say that somehow. It had nothing to do with religion is neither here nor there. Of course, we have to be careful in this discourse because we are a very large Muslim population and we don't want the impact of this to actually start being felt in our society. So we have to isolate what Pakistan has done and its supporters have done. So we have taken very calibrated action on the diplomatic front and strong action. Right. In fact, the implications of some of the things we have done go far beyond the precision, the strikes that we made after the attacks in Pulwama, Balakot, and the surgical strikes earlier. Those are one-off strikes which were meant to convey a message to Pakistan. But now we have taken a strategic decision on the Indus Water Treaty.
Yes.
The only treaty which has survived all the wars and conflicts between India and Pakistan is this treaty. And we were also, and others were also saying that this treaty has survived all the ups and downs of Pakistan relations, Pakistan's confrontations, and it was being touted as some kind of a very stable thing that still underlies India-Pakistan relations.
Right.
Now, with suspension of the treaty and potential abrogation of the treaty, Pakistan will suffer a great deal because India will go ahead and build its projects as it wishes. The size, scope, all the sluice gates, the silting, flushing, everything else. There'll be no data sharing, which will create a lot of uncertainties to the Pakistani farmers on the other side during lean season, during the rainy season. So it's a very powerful tool. Plus, of course, the other things that we know we've done about annulling the posts of the defense attaches, etc., etc. Now it's clear that we intend to take kinetic action. All the Prime Minister's own statements are very clear that something will be done. And there are meetings that are taking place between the Defence Minister and the Chief of Defence Staff. Obviously, they are strategizing. The Navy is doing some exercises. The Air Force is doing some exercises. And the idea also would be, in the first instance, to force Pakistan to disperse its armed forces because they're fighting a battle on the western side.
Right.
Against the Baluchistan Liberation Front, against the Taliban, against the TTP. And now they'll have to move forces to the east. And this weaken whatever they're doing on the western side and give more opportunities to all those who are targeting India, targeting Pakistan, actually to do more damage to the Pakistan militaries. So Pakistan is in a very difficult position, plus its economy is in serious trouble. One or two things that I'd like to say which we should do. One is that the Prime Minister rightly said that we've got so much support internationally. Yes. On the diplomatic side, we are very strong.
Right.
The United States, which earlier had been protecting Pakistan, is now supporting us. Trump himself, the Secretary of State Rubio, the FBI director, the Director of National Intelligence, and individual senators and congressmen, all are supporting us. There are other countries which are supporting us. So the diplomatic terrain has become very favorable for any action that we may take. There's been no criticism by these countries of our decision to suspend the Indus Water Treaty, knowing the consequences of that for Pakistan. And therefore, we should go to the Americans, since Americans are supporting us very strongly, and press them to delay the IMF bailout funding for Pakistan. Pakistan is already in serious trouble, and they've gone to the IMF, and the United States has been helpful.
Right.
And if they press Pakistan there, then the Pakistan's economic woes will be compounded further. Plus, we must go to the FATF to again put Pakistan on the grey list, if not on the blacklist. These are some of the options.
So international alienation seems to be the way forward, right? Thank you, Mr. Sibil, for joining us. We also have some breaking news now. India has pulled out of the Central Asian Volleyball Championship. Pakistan Federation has confirmed Central Asian Volleyball in Islamabad from the 2nd of May. Government has cancelled their NOC. A 30-member delegation was confirmed for the meeting before Pahalgam attacks. My colleague Reika Roy joins us with more details on this. Reika, India pulling out of the Central Asian Volleyball Championship in the midst of India-Pakistan tension. Tell us the significance of this, and also was this expected?
You see, Vasta, this is the first time we are hearing post the Pahalgam attack sport being impacted, and with the relations between India and Pakistan going south, now the first impact, I would say, one of the first impacts we were expecting will come on sports, and so it has happened. Pakistan Volleyball Federation this evening has confirmed that India has cancelled its participation in the upcoming Central Asian Volleyball Tournament that was to start in Islamabad from May 28th at the Jinnah Complex in Islamabad. India had earlier given an NOC for a 30-member team, 22 of whom were expected to be players, and 8-member delegation The Indian volleyball officials have informed the regional bodies that the government has cancelled the NOC issued to them for the tournament after the incident in Pahalgam, where 26 tourists, including one foreign national, was killed during the attack on 22nd of April. Pakistan, of course, says that it is disappointing to know that India has withdrawn from the championship and they will either be replaced by Afghanistan or Sri Lanka. This competition is expected to feature 6 other teams from the Central Asian region.
Right. Thank you, Reika, for joining us with those details. Also joining us now is a panel of our guests, Professor Rohan Gunaratna, international terrorism and security expert. We have Dr. Brahma Chalane, who is strategic affairs expert, and also Major General Sudhakar, who is a former Indian Army general. He has served in counter-terrorism operations across Jammu and Kashmir. Thank you all of you for joining me on this broadcast. Mr. Gunaratna, to you first. I was listening to you on TV yesterday, sir. You've spoken extensively about the importance of having a coalition in place to deal with jihadi terror groups that Pakistan sponsors, and that India might find it challenging to do this on its own. How easy or difficult do you think it is going to be for India to get allies on its side to effectively push this on ground?
The attack in Kashmir happened when the Vice President of the United States was already on Indian soil. And today, India has very limited options of fighting with Pakistan, because Pakistan will attack India back. Pakistan has a very capable military, very well-structured to fight India as well. One should never doubt that. In a Pakistan-India war, both countries will suffer very significantly. So I believe that the Kashmir, the attack took the response to Kashmir terrorist attack should be one of India developing a multi-pronged, multi-agency, multinational and a multi-jurisdictional response. If India is unwilling to work with partners and develop a coalition of states that will work with India with regard to this attack, India will not succeed. There will be more blood. Okay. I know Indians are very passionate about it, they are very emotional about it, but one must look at the long-term implications of a tit-for-tat response on the kinetic side. Of course, there are a lot of other measures that can be taken by India when it comes to dealing with this attack that was staged from Pakistan soil, because Lashkar-e-Toiba has been based in Pakistan, and it mounted the Mumbai attack in 2008. So it has a history of this group operating on Pakistan soil.
Okay, Mr. Chalane, would you agree with that, sir? Because there's a lot of talk about using creative kinetic responses to punish the perpetrators while avoiding what we see as an all-out war. But given the limitations of military action, what are the alternative strategies that India could look at, which could also weaken Pakistan's proxy warfare mechanisms, but also we ensure minimal civil deaths for that matter?
India will have to act on its own. Let's be clear about that. And Prime Minister Modi will have to walk the talk. He has to calm national anger. He has to keep the country united. At the same time, he has to exact revenge in a cautious and calibrated way while avoiding escalatory retaliation. It's important for India because, we have the Balakot airstrike example. When India struck a terror camp deep inside Pakistan while avoiding targeting any military facility. This time, India should target the terror masters, not their surrogates. After all, this cross-border terrorism is being orchestrated by the Pakistani military generals. The terrorists are only their proxies. Unless the terror puppeteers, not their puppets, begin to bear escalating costs, hoping that Pakistan would reform and be at peace with itself, would remain a delusion. But I think it's also important to remember that Modi's 11 years in office have shown that the Prime Minister is averse to exercising the military option. And when he does employ force, he tends to choose a more surgical option, such as a limited airstrike or special forces carrying out cross-border raids.
Right.
That's fine. I think there are ways to impose costs on Pakistan in a discreet manner.
Okay.
So India has a range of options, both military and non-military. The important thing for India is to impose costs on Pakistan in a sustained manner. It cannot be a one-off operation. This time it will have to be costs that are imposed on a multifaceted and sustained basis.
Okay, that's a very important point. Major General Sudhakar, since you've also worked a lot in Kashmir, today we saw the hard crackdown on the houses of terrorists across districts of South Kashmir, and this has been happening for the past 3 days. How important is it for India to also dismantle the terror ecosystem in the valley? What are the challenges in these operations? Because even today the Chief Minister said that it's important to punish the guilty but also protect the innocent, and also this, the search, hunt, combing operations. How critical are these operations to ensure that the security grid in J&K is foolproof? And one question, sir, why was it not done earlier then, if we really knew about this?
Vasudha, good evening. Thank you for getting me to your show. And I'm humbled to be in the same panel with distinguished panelists. I know most of them. Dr. Brahma, we keep reading about his literature, lots of articles, and I have met the professor in many international events. So great that you have invited me. Okay, your question has got multiple parts. The first and most important part is to how to destroy the ecosystem of terrorism within the valley. Any ecosystem within the valley cannot exist without support from the proxies or sponsors across the line of control. Let's be very clear about anything that happens with regard to terrorism has got umbilical cord or direct linkage in terms of command, control, coordination, communication, intelligence, surveillance. You can keep adding on, computer and a host of other terminologies. That is one aspect I want to very clear. And I tend to agree with Dr. Brahma when he says that last time it was a terrorist scam, precedent has been set, and look at the leadership, the governance. They chose to go in for a surgical precision target across the line of control.
Right.
Post-Uri attack, now with such a kind of a mayhem which has taken place, perhaps it is going to be, very, very enormous kind of objective. So what is that objective, if you allow me? I think the time has come wherein the tap from where the water of terrorism is flowing needs to be permanently shut.
Okay.
And that tap is none other than Pakistan Army, the leadership in Pakistan Army. It is the chief of the Pakistan Army who had the temerity to take recourse to two-nation theory, which nobody accepts in Pakistan as on today. Number two, I tend to agree with, to a large extent, with what Professor said, tit for tat retaliation. I think India has come a long way. It has lived with the pains and the anguish of such a neighbor, which was created based on a fictitious, artificial paradigm, and it can no longer hold good.
Okay.
And third and most important thing is India must give it back. Must give it back in a manner so that it is sustainable.
Completely out of time. One last word from Professor Gunaratna. What role do international actors such as US or China will they have in this, in this episode, sir? Because, I wanted to ask you, because how crafty or blunt should India be in seeking help or even trusting these countries?
Firstly, to fight the threat of terrorism, there are certain capabilities that are needed. Very sadly, although India has suffered so much from terrorism, India failed to prevent this attack. There was no capability on the part of the Indian security and intelligence establishment or the military establishment, despite 500,000 troops in Jammu and Kashmir, to prevent this one attack. That is the nature of threat.
Okay.
So I believe that as the first step, India should strengthen its own states against this threat. Second is, of course...
Okay, I'm completely out of time. I'm sorry to cut you short, sir. Nazir, my colleague, also joins us from the ground there. Nazir, over to you now. Also tell us, while there's a lot of developments in Delhi and across the country, and also ensuring that the nationals of Pakistan who have been living in India on long-term visa, or for that matter short-term visa, are also leaving now. You tell us what is really happening on the ground there, and also Omar Abdullah's statement that the guilty should be punished but innocent should also be protected. How is that being seen?
Well, there is some political row post-Pahalgam operations launched by the security forces, which included mass arrests. How hundreds of people have been detained for questioned, and several houses, either they are relatives or the families of terrorists, they have been demolished for the last 3 days. So Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah is saying people of Kashmir has shown their resolve against terrorism. They have spoken openly against terrorism and violence. And while there should be decisive action against terrorism and its origin, which means Pakistan, and guilty should be punished, but innocent should not be touched. The same sentiment was showed by Mehbooba Mufti, former Chief Minister and President of PDP, Sajjad Lone, Mirwais Umar Farooq, and other leaders. So we have seen on the streets for the first time people of Kashmir coming out, denouncing terrorism, demanding action against those who have been behind this terror act. At the same time, when we see there have been these incidents by security forces, it appears that they have targeted the houses of terrorists, but clearly they don't own a single house which have been demolished. They are either the families or the relatives of those, and they are saying what is our fault, and innocent people, common people should not be touched. So tomorrow, Jammu and Kashmir Assembly would be sitting for a special session on Pahalgam carnage. The House is likely to pass a resolution against terrorism and demanding end to violence in Jammu and Kashmir. This is first time when this Jammu and Kashmir Assembly will be holding a special session against a militant attack, against a terror attack in Jammu and Kashmir. I remember when in 2000 there was an attack on Jammu and Kashmir Assembly. That time Assembly was in session. There was not a special sting, though it was condemned. But it's first time we see Jammu and Kashmir Assembly actually, the sentiment we saw on the street will be now represented and reflected in the Assembly as well.
Okay, thank you Nazir for joining us with those details. You can see the visuals there of the LG of J&K. As the country mourns the lives lost in Pahalgam terror attack, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has once again stated that the perpetrators and the conspirators of the attack would face the harshest response. With that, it's a wrap on the show. More news and updates on the other side.